on rook d3. This could be the end of the world championship. You've been with us the entire 2 weeks, Jovi. I mean, well, 3 weeks really. And it comes down to this.
Played. And it does. It came down to the 12th and final game. It was so tense, full of fighting chess. And in the end, it was all down to nerves in the final game.
But here it is, we can stick something on b8 and we're just going to make a queen for nothing. You stick a rook or a knight on b8 and what do? It's a queen. It's not only a new chess queen. There it is, rook to b8. And
that's it. The handshake that says that Zhu Wenjun is women's world champion again. Wow, amazing congratulations to Zhu Wenjun, 4-time women's world champion. She is now there in the history books alongside some of the women's greatest chess players in history. Vera Menchik, Nona Kaprindashvili, Maya Chibidanidze, then we have Hou Yifan, and now we have Zhu Wenjun. What a performance.
Okay.
Nice.
Because it's finished.
Okay, thank you so much. And how would you compare it to the previous World Championship? Is the excitement level now that you won the same as before? Is it bigger, or the first time was somehow more special? Can you compare it?
Actually, I think each time is very special for me, and I feel in this time I feel. Okay, it's really, really good. I mean, good quality the chess game, and I think both players are playing very well this time. And I feel okay. It's lucky for me.
Thank you. And Leighton Gia, thank you so much for joining us again. I know it's a difficult moment, but you both played great throughout the whole match. Does the fact that the match was so close makes the disappointment a bit smaller, or maybe because it was so close, it's even more painful to lose this one? Can you tell us your feeling?
I mean, just right now, I just think that, okay, finally the match finished. Then, like, no more pressure. And there are so many things look forward to do it. So for me, it's like kind of a release.
And what are you looking forward to the most now?
Maybe eat some tasty food.
Okay, hopefully you will get that very soon. Thank you so much for the answer.
The 12th game of the World Women's Championship, and it was tied 5-5, 5-5 till the last round. And the opening of the final game was d4 by Zhu Wenjun. Li Tangji plays d5, and now knight f3, knight f6, and e3, hinting that White's going to play the Collie system with c3. But okay, c5 played by Li Tangji. And now it's sort of like a Queen's Gambit reversed, accepted. Now e6 and b4. White defends the extra pawn, and black has the sender. a5 attacking the pawn. So you will see the same idea in Queen's Gambit accepted from the other side. Now c3 takes and takes. b6. So Li Tangji is basically attacking the extra pawn that White has got, the pawn mass over here. Zhu Wenjun gives a check, bishop b7, takes and takes. And now a4. Takes and b5. So she gives back the pawn, does Zhu Wenjun. In return, she has got two nice connected outside pass pawns. And Li Tangji has got a mass of pawns in the center. So this sets it up for a very nice middle game. Queen c7. She wants the pawns to go forward. So the pieces need to develop first. Bishop b2, bishop d6, castles. Castles and knight d2. Rook c8, and now queen c2. Here, Li Tangji plays c4. She had the option of e5 as well, just getting the pawns rolling down the board with d4 coming. but she chooses to go c4, but that allows bishop c3, and Zhu Wenjun gets a nice blockade over the dark squares for now. Knight c5 and a5. Pawns are going up. Knight b3, and here Zhu Wenjun plays bishop takes knight. So Li Tangji allowed that. She's allowing bishop takes knight, knight takes rook, and then bishop takes back. So 2 knights for the rook, but the pawn also falls. Black will also get the pawn. So knight b3 was played by Li Tangji, and a bishop takes knight. Knight takes, bishop takes, and queen takes. So who does this position favor? 2 knights for a rook. Zhu Wenjun has got 2 knights, and Li Tangji has got 1 rook. And pawns, it's 1 pawn extra for black. So a rook and a pawn for 2 knights. So if there's a bishop and knight against a rook, then usually the bishop and knight are much better. But 2 knights, it might not be that great against a rook. And here black has still got this nice pawn chain. So Li Tangji is fine here. It's equal. Queen c3, threatening mate in 1. There is the option of bishop f8, but Li Tangji goes for queen takes, bishop takes, and now we have an endgame. An endgame where the pawns are slightly blockaded. None of these pawns can go forward, right? But white's pawn is also weak. But knight d4, defending the pawn. Now e5. This is a big mistake. This, I think, is the main moment of the game. Li Tangji took 7 minutes for this move. She had the option of just bishop c5, threatening the pawn basically. Knight gets attacked. Then rook b1 would come, and then rook a3, and the game continues. But she goes for e5. e5 is a mistake because of knight f5. And now knight f5, where does the bishop go? If bishop goes to this diagonal, knight e7 and the pawn falls. Right? And if bishop goes to f8, then the e5 pawn falls. Of course, you will also get the b pawn, but the nice pawn chain breaks up. So she goes bishop f8, and now bishop takes e5, rook takes b5, and g4. Nice move. Cementing the knight and making space for the king to get out. g6, knight d4. Rook b2. Here it was possible to play something. Okay, rook b6 is difficult to play. Rook to b6. That's like a computer move. Difficult to do. So rook b6 is the only move that keeps it around even. Rook b6 or rook b7. Why does the engine not like rook b2 basically? It's probably it's not that great a square for the rook once a knight moves. So knight went to b1 actually, which is still good. And now bishop g7 takes, and this position is completely winning for white. The 2 knights are much better than a rook. Now if you compare this position and the position after, let's say, rook k1, this was a better choice for black, because now let's say white plays knight c3, same thing, takes, bishop g7, takes, and takes. The difference here is it's just 2 knights versus a rook. There's no other pieces. White does not have a rook to help the knights. So then the task of defending becomes a lot easier compared to the game position where Li Tangji directly played bishop g7. Now takes, and knight c3, the pawn is hanging, rook a5, rook d1. So it's pressure on the pawn. Li Tangji goes rook b6. Now knight e2, heading to f4. That pawn is definitely going to fall. King g2, just improving the king position. h6, king f3, f6, rook c1. King moves and knight f4. Now d5 is hanging. d4 takes. g5, knight comes back. Of course, you can't go knight d5 because then rook will just take it. So, because the other knight's pinned. Knight t2, f5, takes, and king e3. So by now, Zhu Wenjun has the world championship title within her grasp. She can see the trophy right in front of her, because the 2 knights are controlling everything, and the rook is also there to help, and the king is also there to help. And there's a pass pawn. Black's pawns are just weak. Rook went back, just waiting, and now pawn pushes forward. Rook goes back, rook comes up, knight b5, knight d4, rook check, king moves up. And now once the setup is, the c pawn is gone. And now once everything is in control, the d pawn will continue pushing. Knight d4, king comes in. So Zhu Wenjun carefully improves the position little by little. Rook comes back to defend the h pawn. King goes up. If rook check, of course, the knight will come and defend. So now the knight's hanging, so knight b5. Rook comes in, and the pawn pushes. King moves in, but knight c6 check, forcing the king away. And you can't go to e6 because of the fork. So it's gone now for Li Tanji. King comes down. Now just d7. Rook d3, stopping the pawn somewhat. Just knight d6 check, and after king moves, she does not even promote. Is promoting a mistake? This also wins, but after rook takes, knight takes, it will be a harder win. She just goes for the clean victory, which is rook to b8. And now there is no way to stop the pawn from promoting. So here Li Tanji resigned, and Zhu Wenjun retains her world championship title, and she's still the current world women's champion.